Alright. So, okay. Coffee, check. Alright, I'm ready to do this thing. Let's go. Hi, everybody. Well, you all remember the last video I did, the one about movement shooters. Well, yeah, that kind of became one of my most popular videos up to date. I think that's, like, literally insane, guys, and I can't really say thank you enough. Like, I've worked really hard towards something and it really paid off. It, like, hit 500 views. This is insane. And I'm super glad you enjoyed it. And as a special treat, I'm going to make, like, a kind of a sequel to that. So, yeah. Thanks for the 400 people who watched it. I do this for you all. Oh, and as always, if you're here and you're new, hit that subscribe button. Thanks for the view. Face reveal at 100 subs, except if it doesn't reach 100 by the end of the year, then you get a toe reveal. I'm sorry. So quick recap to any people who didn't watch the last video but are somehow watching this. But a Quake-like, or a movement shooter, is a game where mechanics focus around movement and making the game feel 3D. The very first example of that was Quake, with its breakneck, field of view, and exotic, for the time, weaponry. I'm a huge fan of the developers for carving away in the first-person genre of game. It's super cool, and I love not only the theme, but the mechanics. There's a good amount of puzzles and combat, and it's all around a good game that people should check out. Recently, I've also noticed a large number of movement shooters becoming more and more popular. These games are like Postal, Brain Damage, and Ultrakill, some of the most popular ones, besides the new Dooms. Like Doom 2016, Doom Eternal. This is good because the more breakneck action everyone is available to have, the more popular it gets and the more games are made. So, yeah, I like crazy action and I like unique weapons, so this is good all around. Another thing I want to touch on before I start looking at new Quake-likes is the Ultrakill update. So, Ultrakill, as I mentioned in my last video, was going to get a big update from the developer. And I think what they did was actually better for the game, because each time you use your hook shot, you get a heal debuff that like stops to the amount that you can heal each time you do use the grappling hook. So it makes the combat more strategic and forces you to only use the whiplash in dire situations. And that's why everyone thought like, oh, this game's too easy, you could just whiplash around and like get health immediately. But no, now they've added like that health debuff, and it forces you to be like finding your own meta, because everyone has their own playstyle when it comes to games, and Ultrakill is really focused on helping everyone find their own style. And if you get really good at using the whiplash, you can whip around avoiding enemy projectiles, so you can still use it, and while also avoiding the health debuff altogether, which is a really good feeling, and it'll give you a good rating as well at the end of the missions. Personally, this fixes a ton of issues, making combat more unique in most situations. Ultrakill is still my favorite movement shooter, standing up to both of the Dooms, with both mechanics and flashiness. You know how Doom is like the original metalhead with hard hits and like meaty sounds, but Ultrakill is like the punk fanfiction sequel to the Bible. Like, you can't beat it. Alright, on to the review! So, here we go. These games aren't really in any specific order. Well, actually, you know what, fine. I'll put them in order, it's my video and I'll make the rules here. Oh, and a quick heads up, spoilers for the games I'm reviewing, so if you see something here you want to check out, then do that before you watch. Thanks so much for watching.
Paladins.
Okay, so first up, this is not even a top 6 list, or even a top list at all, just a bunch of games I thought I could make an interesting video on. So, you know what that means for poor Paladins, they're at the bottom of the list. It's a pretty rough game to play. I mean, you can see the love, and you can really tell the developers really enjoyed making it, but it's not the best movement shooter game. And that being said, it's not a bad game, it just doesn't fit the movement shooter genre as much as some of the others, but it stands out more than generic shooter games, because there is a lot of focus on movement, where like different characters have different types of movement. First off, it's an online multiplayer with a game style loop similar to that of TF2. It's clunky and it lacks a little bit of impact, but it doesn't mean it's not fun. It's like fun to run around and heal people as furries and anime people are storming like On Astartes, for the God Empire! Die, heretic! Oh crap, oh there's two, oh crap. So anyway, it's a pretty fun game, but also a little bit of a bad game. It's because of how broken it is. But each update adds something new. More characters, more balance, but the structure of this game is not as strong as its horse's backs. And I mean, a lot of the stuff you could do is just hide behind walls, or like, have a team full of flanks and just totally destroy the enemy. That's why it's unbalanced. That's what I mean by unbalanced, is when, like, characters are way more overpowered than others, or they work better together than others do. But altogether, this game is fairly good. I think the reason I reviewed this instead of Team Fortress 2 or maybe Overwatch is because I could say more interesting things about it. Yeah, on to the next one. A medieval. So, when I say Quake-like, this is the closest to Quack you're gonna get in any game. It's a really cool theme. You're like some god-sized knight blasting through hordes of unique and even larger enemies. And when I say god-sized, I mean you use planets as ammo for a staff that shoots them like rockets. The theme of this game is pretty great, and also so is the pacing, with twisting hallways and lots of monster encounters along the way. For a Quake-like, the combat's a little bit on the basic side, but there's really cool upgrades that you can unlock for each weapon that's each unique to each weapon when you gather enough, like, soul. The monsters are pretty cool, with a unique attack pattern for each of them, whether it be ranged or melee, and it takes the limitations of Quake and expands upon what Quake could have been with better technology back then. Medieval is a good game, yet, however, it's still pretty low on the tier list, but it is polished and feels good to play. It just doesn't bring anything new to the table. Incision. I have no idea what this game is about, but I love the style. Apparently, flesh has been spliced with metal, creating horrific, gory biopunk monsters. This game is fast and punchy, and it controls very similar to games like Quake and Dusk, where you have to blast through a level over and over each time you die. It has some really interesting environments that could really bring out the disgustingly amazing theme. It reminds me a little of games like Karen and Scorn. There's barely any story in your face, besides the cryptic text that's all around the environment, but instead it's storytelling through the environment, which is, I find, really cool. Each of the weapons has a unique mod that can change your playstyle depending on like how much ammo you have or what type of enemy you're going up against. Like there's a burst shotgun, a grenade launcher, your revolver flips around really fast. There's all sorts of stuff that you can do. So overall, Incision's a pretty good game, just not at the front of our list. You know what I mean? Ghostrunner. Ghostrunner is an excellent game. This game basically gives you the power of those anime sword fighters. You teleport around, chop off dudes' heads, and listen to two AIs arguing like an old married couple in wall run. Like, think Titanfall 2 movement, but focused more on melee. And there's also no Titans, which is sad. But the story is pretty long, and there's too much focus on the story, which leads to a bit of fatigue at a narrative standpoint. Sometimes feels like a precision platformer, with some of the enemies force you to play in a certain way, and you have to follow the same pattern to beat the level. But there are like different ways you can choose to take out the pattern, which you could beat the level even faster. So there are some workarounds. Each different enemy forces you to play in a different way, and when they're mixed together, you have to play in a unique way altogether. So like, it's really good at mixing up the gameplay and mixing up sort of the impact your sword has. There's also a lot of customization when it comes to your character specifically. Like you can customize your gloves or your sword, or even your power-ups. And now the power-up screen looks a lot like Tetris, and that's pretty cool because the stronger a power-up is, the more space it's going to take up, or the more complex the shape of the Tetris block is going to be. So that adds a whole level of complexity. Overall, it's a pretty good game, and I would recommend it. Yeah, on to the next one. Post-Void. Okay, first off, the following footage may cause epilepsy, whatever, headaches, seizures, so viewer discretion advised. There's going to be a lot of flashing and bright lights. This game is the weirdest game on the list. So basically it's a roguelike boomer shooter with insane graphics. It's a psychedelic and kind of harsh. The gun's muzzle flash leaves the whole screen white, and taking damage does the same. You zip through like prefabricated hallways, and what's in your hands? Oh yeah, your own head. Somehow, you got your head chopped off and now you're running around like a headless chicken. It also doubles as health bar that's always leaking. The only way to refill it is, you guessed it, kill the enemies. Speaking of enemies, all of them are pretty original and work well with the game and the game's themes. There's enemies that affect your vision and enemies that affect your audio, and there's standard body horror turrets and like the little henchmen running around. It's weird how it feels a little bit of corporate versus human. Men in suits, flying hands with large, blaringly loud phones, where the end of the journey is into the forests to plant a flower. The message is deeper than face value, and that's why this game leaves a kind of strange feeling in my gut each time I close it.
Bullets per minute.
Now I've played this one a couple of times on my channel, edited or unedited. But bullets per minute, or BPM for short, and if you're a music nerd, that should mean something to you. With a name like BPM, you might expect something like a rhythm game, but damn, the execution of this game is amazing. On top of being a really cool and flashing rhythm-based movement shooter, it's also a roguelike, with a multitude of characters to choose from, all of which are unique in their own way, with their movement and starting stats. My favorite's Jerry, the little boyo. The enemies are pretty normal, but I like how everything moves to the beat of the song, and like all the projectiles move at the speed of the song, and the different gimmicks that the bosses have. It really brings out the beat, and really gets you bopping your head along with the tempo. I have a feeling this game is somewhat inspired by those old CSGO videos where you shoot to the beat of the song and like create a song out of your bullets, but it really knows what it's going for, and I applaud it. Anyway, that's all I have for now. I'm really sorry for the short video, but if it hits 600 views, I'll do a new one with some new upcoming demos for movement shooters. There's a lot to sift through, so I'll come out with some new and upcoming hidden gems. That's all I forgot for today. See you in the next episode. Dr. Digit, over and out.